We live in an era dominated by boring, black plastic mirrorless cameras that feel more like computers than photographic tools. But two companies, Nikon and Fujifilm, realize that some of us still want to feel something when we press the shutter. Today, we have a battle for the soul of retro photography. In one corner, the reigning champion of the APS-C world, the high-resolution artisan, the Fujifilm X-T5. In the other, the challenger that brought full-frame power back to a vintage body, the Nikon Zf. On the surface, they look like long-lost cousins from the 1980s. But underneath the brass and magnesium, they represent two diametrically opposed philosophies. Today, we're going beyond the spec sheets to figure out which philosophy actually makes sense for you. Welcome to the Visual Codex home of unbiased review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's dive in. 1. The Nikon Zf, the powerhouse in vintage clothing. Let's start with the challenger. The Nikon Zf is essentially a modern powerhouse. Think Nikon Z6 II, or even elements of the Z8, shoved into the body of a classic FM2 film camera. Why people love the Zf? The full-frame magic and haptics. The primary draw here is the sensor size. It's a 24.5 MP full-frame sensor. Educating point here. While 24 MP sounds lower than Fuji's 40 MP, the pixels themselves are much larger on the Nikon. This means it gathers light cleaner. For low-light street photography or moody indoor portraits, the Zf produces files with a gorgeous, clean elasticity that APS-C struggles to match. Furthermore, the autofocus system is inherited from Nikon's professional flagships. It is sticky, reliable, and incredibly fast. You point it at an eye, and it locks on with practically zero hesitation. And finally, the build. When you pick this camera up, it's dense. It's heavy. The dials are brass. It feels like a weapon. It exudes premium quality that justifies its price tag. Why people don't love the Zf? The brick factor. So, where does it falter? Ergonomics. Nikon sacrificed comfort for style. There is almost no grip. Holding this heavy camera with a heavy full-frame lens for an 8-hour day is exhausting unless you buy an external grip add-on. Secondly, the lens ecosystem. Nikon Z lenses are optically flawless, some of the best ever made, but they are large, clinical, and expensive. Putting a massive, modern lens on this vintage body often looks and feels unbalanced. 2. The Fujifilm X-T5, the artisan's tool. Now, the defending champion. The Fujifilm X-T5 isn't trying to be a spec beast. It's trying to be the ultimate photographer's companion. Why people love the X-T5? Color, character, and crop. The X-T5 uses a 40.2 MP APS-C sensor. The educational takeaway here is cropping power. You have so much resolution that you can shoot a wide street scene and aggressively crop in post-production and still have a sharp 20 MP file left over. It offers immense compositional flexibility. But the real reason people marry into the Fuji system is the film simulations. Fuji's color science isn't just good, it's emotive. Shooting in classic chrome or acros black and white gives you JPGs straight out of the camera that look like finished art. It removes the friction of editing. And finally, the lenses. Fuji's X-mount lenses are generally smaller, cheaper, and have more vintage character than Nikon's clinical glass. You can fit an X-T5 and 3 lenses in a small sling bag. Why people don't love the X-T5? The APS-C ceiling. The criticism of the X-T5 usually centers on performance limits. That high-resolution sensor gets noisy faster in low light compared to the big pixels of a Nikon Zf. Furthermore, while the autofocus is good, it is not on Nikon's level. If you shoot erratic subjects, active dogs, sports, or toddlers running around, the Fuji will hunt and miss shots that the Nikon Zf would nail in its sleep. You can check them out with the link in my description board. Which one should you choose, and why should you choose them? So, how do you choose between two incredible cameras? It comes down to what you value more, the result or the process. Choose the Nikon Zf if you are a performance-first shooter who just happens to love vintage aesthetics. If you need the absolute cleanest low-light files, the most reliable autofocus for moving subjects, And that distinct full-frame look with shallow depth of field, the Zf is unparalleled. You are willing to deal with a heavier, less ergonomic setup to get that image quality. Choose the Fujifilm X-T5 if you value the joy of daily carrying. If you want a lighter system with charming lenses, tons of resolution for cropping, and colors that inspire you straight out of the camera, the X-T5 is the more cohesive package. It's a camera that begs to be taken on a walk, even when you have nothing specific to shoot. The Nikon is a powerhouse dressed in vintage clothing. The Fujifilm is an artistic tool with a soul. Now it's your turn. Are you team brass dials and full-frame power, or are you team film simulations and 40-megapixel detail? I'll be down in the comments waiting to see which side you take. If you enjoyed this deep dive, you know what to do. Hit that like button, join the community by subscribing, and let's keep making better images together. I'm Visual Codex, and I'll see you in the next one. Go out and shoot something.